Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. I'm back doing another episode of Where Are They Now? And for those of you who hadn't heard the first episodes of this series, I will recap. As you know, I coach a lot of people. And of course, you have heard me coaching people live on this podcast with my Coaching with Kimmy episodes. I also have a ton of clients who I send off into the world after coaching them personally. And it's so amazing and rewarding when I hear countless success stories and read thousands of emails of previous clients updating me on how their life has improved and often how they find love. So I do these Where Are They Now episodes to inspire and motivate you by hearing what happens to people after I work with them. And whether that is on a podcast or working with them over time as clients, I hope you listen to these and get inspired by people's successes and know that success can happen to you too, even if you don't think so. And it also starts with a call. And that's what happened with this beautiful woman who I'm bringing on today. I actually met her through a workshop that we did, and she decided to hop on a free call that I offered. And we just were exploring ideas how she could date without anxiety and attract a healthy relationship, because history had it that she wasn't attracting that. So she decided after the phone call to invest in coaching with me because she realized she needed some direction in how to do that. She had come out of a series of some toxic relationships with narcissistic tendencies, and she knew that there were things she needed to work on, such as putting herself first, setting boundaries, getting out of her head, which all, by the way, contributed to her attracting these kind of lopsided relationships where she wasn't getting her needs met, but she just didn't know how, right? And, as we were talking and as I was getting to know her, I come to find that she wanted a family. She didn't know where to meet people. She knew she had a lot of requirements. But then again, there was this dynamic of her not putting herself first, and she wasn't sure she was communicating her feelings effectively. She wasn't sure about, her own needs and an own awareness, because she was so focused on the other people and other guys. After doing a ton of reflection and work on herself, she learned to express herself, gain her sexy confidence, set boundaries. And because she learned all that and to put herself first, she attracted this great guy in her life. I'm so excited, but I'll let her tell the rest. Welcome, Mary. Mary, you there?
Hi, Kimmy.
Hi. Oh, thanks my God. I was so excited to do this with you. And wow, what a journey. I mean, we were talking a little bit off air, just how much you've shifted. And obviously there were a lot of different reasons for that, but I'd love for you to just share a little bit, gosh, do you remember that woman back then that I was describing? And what was your life like?
I do. I just remember feeling very stuck and kind of not being satisfied with where things had been and wanting to move to a better place. But kind of like you said, I wasn't sure. I felt like I needed support in doing that because I'm so busy and I have all these other things going on in my life. And this is really important to me. And so I wanted to put some time and attention into it and utilize somebody who knows what they're doing. Because friends and family are always very well intentioned, but if it's not what they do for their work, it's you wouldn't go see a lawyer if you wanted surgery on your knee. Mm-hmm. So it's I'm yeah. So I was well, it makes sense to work with somebody who makes this a priority in their lives and they kind of does it for their work and cares about it and is passionate about it and has experience with it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
I love that you did that. And it's so true, and I think another thing is, and you listening probably feel this as well, is that your family and friends, know you a certain way, right? And of course they love you. And a lot of times the advice is, "Oh, you're great, it's just the guys," or they may not give you the advice that you really need to hear, and they're attached to you in an emotional way. So it is hard to get like that advice, like you said,
Well,
from
also
somebody else.
because like it's not their area of expertise. So like
Right.
they give you advice that's very biased based on their own personal experience. Whereas like
That's right.
you have like seen so many relationships, like you've made this like your life's work for like however long you've made it, like a long time. And you've seen like the breadth and depth of like the way things like work in relationships with people, and it's also not like all your friends and family are, necessarily in like that doesn't mean they're all in a great relationship. And then okay, like
Right.
advice for that either. Does that really make sense? Probably not. It's not logical.
Right,
So
right.
yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, I would love for you to describe, because certainly, like we're just saying in words, some of what was going on. But like before you picked up that phone and we had that chat together, or you came to that workshop, walk us through a little bit what your life was like. Like, what was your dating life like? How are you feeling? What was going on?
Well, like my dating life, I had put on pause because like I just
Hmm.
wanted to like focus on myself. Like I had been in a relationship. Now it ended like over like a year ago and it ended, but it was basically like something that I felt like started off and then I wasn't understanding like what the other person was saying. Like they were sending kind of mixed signals about like wanting to be in a committed relationship or not. And like it would be like yes and like meh, then yes. And so it's like I didn't understand at the time that like that is like should be treated like no, like they don't, And so
Hmm.
like that would became like it was like an on, off, on. And then I had given it like a deadline and I terminated it at the deadline. But in the meantime, like it was sort of like causing problems for me. And I didn't appreciate that like just staying in it, even though like there wasn't any kind of clear path forward, was gonna have like such a detrimental effect on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then like and like between the two of us too, versus like if I had just like cut it short like sooner. So I was kind of like, wow, I'm kind of making these decisions that I think are reasonable but turning out to not really actually be useful to my life. And so I wasn't feeling great about that. And so I don't know, I kind of had a feeling like, okay, now it's like time for me to meet somebody. Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was going to, I wasn't sure exactly when, but felt like I needed to do a lot of like shifting of things in my own life to like, and to be a little bit more confident about how to like navigate like these things and kind of like you say to like focus on like what's important to me and have that be like the primary thing and not be like
Mm-hmm.
distracted by other stuff and like how to like really kind of key in and turn into other people or communicate with them like and also like how to communicate my needs in a way that's like doesn't push people away. Like certain people may be pushed away and then that's fine, but like they're not being pushed away because of the way you've said it. Maybe they're pushed
Right.
away because they're just like not at that space in their life or they're not a good fit. But like how to communicate things in a way that is like overall like light and friendly and kind and nice, but like still be really clear about like kind of like what you want and the boundaries and stuff. And so a lot of it I was like not even aware of things that I
Mm-hmm.
what might have been doing that was more of like keying into like the other person versus focusing on myself. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that has gotten like way better.
Oh my God. Has it, I mean, it's huge. I think, that theme of just you kind of not really even, it's almost like you weren't even caring or aware of your needs because you were so focused on just the relationship or making it work or staying in something, even though you didn't necessarily like it or knew that there were some, problems with it. You I think for the first time really started pulling in and saying, "Hey, what is it that I want? What is it that I'm feeling?" And because of that, you attracted something different. And I think that is so key because I so many and your caretaker. I mean, that was one thing that that we really were like recognizing, with what you do for a living, with just like how you are in general. And so when you're so focused on other people, you end up attracting lopsided relationships because you're so, focused on them versus yourself.
Yeah, and I think like I agree with all of that, and also I think that I was sort of like putting my trust in like someone, and other people,
Oh, right.
like,
Yeah.
and kind of just being like very like trusting that like or that or thinking that somebody would be like me, like I'm like I would never lead someone to believe something if it weren't true, like, or I wouldn't create a big
Mm.
lie, or like I wouldn't do something if I thought it would be harmful to the other person, especially if they've expressed to me like something that's important to them, like I wouldn't do that. And so like I like kind of trusted like that other people wouldn't either. And then I had to learn that like you can't expect everyone to be like you.
Mm.
And you actually have to like start assessing for yourself like very carefully, like, is this a person of their word? Is this a person of integrity? Is this a person that like is in fact like trustworthy? Do they follow through with what they say? Like, how are their answers? Are they wishy-washy or are they clear? And so it's like, and then like also it's like that, and then also like constantly giving people the benefit of the doubt and like
Mm.
letting their external situation like kind of rationalize like their behavior that maybe I didn't like or I had a problem with, but like felt compassion for because of like their external situation. And then now I'm kind of more like, well, maybe that's your external situation, but like if it was my external situation, like I wouldn't behave the same way.
Yes.
Or
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, or like, okay, that's your external situation, that's fine, but it's still not like where I want or what I want to be in life. So this doesn't work
That's,
for me. But because
yeah.
before I would just keep like giving them the benefit of the doubt and be like, oh, they're going through this, they're going through that. It's like really tough. And like, I'll just be patient. And it's like,
Oh,
that didn't ever work out in any way that was good for me, like at all.
oh my God. That is so, I am so glad you said that. And you said it in a way that I think is really going to land with so many people who stay in something because they try to make it work and they just trust that other people are going to be like them. I love how you're saying that. Because the other thing is too, I think there's this notion that, well, it'll work itself out, like, we can work on it together. And like there's this kind of almost over positive, you know uh, uh, thinking, or like magical thinking, as I call it,
Yeah,
that is
pretty
just going to
magical.
work out, right? Well, he'll change, or yeah, things will come around. Well, and I think part of it is, avoiding the conflict or being a people pleaser. Like you're just hoping that, you just have this like eternal hope that things will work out because you're maybe wired that way. But you're so right. That doesn't mean that other people are wired
Well,
that
because
way, and you can't change that. So you got to come from what you want and who you are.
yeah, because like not everybody I realize is like interested in like self growth and becoming like a different
Yes.
person or transforming. And then that's so huge because like it's like, oh, okay, it's taken me personally a lot to be like aware of like some of the things that get me into situations that I end up feeling not satisfied with. And
Mm,
then deciding I want to change it. And then actually doing all the work, which is time and energy to
yeah.
like change it. And so it's like I realized I was like, oh my God, to think someone else would do that, it's like really a tough ask. Like it's
Yeah.
like because maybe they don't want to change. Like they probably don't. If you're telling them and it's not coming from them primarily, it's coming from you, it's probably not going to work. But I also had people telling me like in the one relationship I had, they're like, oh, this person's great. And it's just the first few years of this kind of situation where things are bad, but then it gets better and everything. And so those things kept me staying because I'm like, oh no, this is such a great person and they're just in such a tough situation. I know it's going to get
Hmm.
better. And then I realized like, no, it's their character. Their
Yeah.
character is showing right now the fact that they don't have resilience to handle a difficult situation and they're responding in a way that like I don't respect. It's
Hmm.
not helping me in our relationship. Like it's actually eroding our relationship. Like it's very destructive. And I'm like, it's not the external factors. Like, yeah, they're in a difficult situation, but it's their character that's
Hmm.
driving it because not everybody would react in the same way. And so I don't know. I realized I was giving a lot of people a huge amount of leeway, but it's like, I wouldn't do that with myself. Like, You know, if I was
Mm.
in a challenge, I've been in challenging situations and I haven't been like, well, now I'm just going to act like XYZ, and I can justify it by saying like, I have this bad situation happening. You know, I realized that
Yeah.
like, no, I'm like, I don't have to, like, people don't have to act like that way. So I'm
Oh
just
my
like making
God.
excuses for them.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's a good segue into like, as we started coaching together, the things that you were learning, because actually you had started dating a guy that you saw that dynamic with, and you were able to, break from that as well. But I'd love for you to share maybe, a couple of aha moments or skills that you gained as we were working together that helped you with all this.
I think it was like one of the things was like realizing that I didn't like it.
I know, right?
Like
Like,
it
yeah.
didn't feel good to me, and to
Mhm.
not like brush that aside or
Yeah.
dismiss it or like find a reason for it or
Mhm.
think, oh, it's going to get better, or think, oh my God, well, this poor person's like family member has cancers in the hospital and like now they're having job, like, you know, they may have to change jobs and like they, you know, so I'm just like, okay, true, and like unrelated. Like true, they have that, true, they have that, true, that makes them like less available, but like unrelated to the fact, like it's completely has nothing to do with the fact that like it doesn't work for me, you know, like it doesn't
Yes.
mean that like I give it, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's fine, like this is great, because like I gave it, I feel like, plenty of time. I was always really nice about it. I never got mean and nasty. I never got sarcastic. I never, well,
Mhm.
one time I might have gotten a tiny bit sarcastic, but I think it went over his head. And like,
Uh-huh.
and I just stayed really kind and everything about it. But then eventually I was just like, I have so much empathy for what's going on with you. I have all the empathy in the world. And like at the same time, like this isn't like what I want to be doing with my life right now. Like I want to be building a connection with somebody. And like it just seems to me like you're not available.
Mhm.
And I was like, we've taken
It was
text
huge.
messaging to like a whole new level, like a whole new art form. I was just
I
like,
just yeah, wait, I want to pause there because you listening, just to catch you up on what Mary's talking about, is that, you started dating a guy that had a lot going on in his life, right? Like there was just a lot of things. And to your point, it wasn't his fault. Like all of those things were real. But I remember getting texts from you, like just, in the beginning where that like the old patterns, where you had anxiety when you wouldn't hear from him, and it was kind of like touch and go, and you were trying to make it work, and it was like that default button that was happening. And I loved how we worked through that, because I think just with that experience you started gaining some of that power, having your voice, learning the I feel message, how you can set the boundary with him. And what was so cool in the end, he respected you even more when you said, look, this is how I feel, this is how it is, and I bow out, in the nicest way possible. And he was like, you know what, you're right.
yeah, he was really nice about it, very understanding and everything. And like he was a good person, you know, but I'm just like, okay,
Mhm.
well, like just because he's a good person doesn't mean he's like the right person for me. Like,
Yes.
but there wasn't a reason for, you know, and so yeah, like it just, yeah. And so initially I was feeling like that anxiety and discomfort.
Hmm.
I remember telling you, I feel so uncomfortable about this. I feel so uncomfortable. And I realized that like I don't want to feel like that uncomfortable feeling, and I don't have to
Yes.
feel that uncomfortable feeling. It's not necessary. Like I don't need it. Like, and so like you were super encouraging that you're like, yeah, don't discount that feeling. Like that feeling you're
Hmm.
having is real, because in the fact I would used to discount it in favor of some other thing, you know?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, like, you were really helpful and like, no, don't discount that. And you were kind of like, yeah, I don't know about this person. And I was just like, and I'm
Right.
like, well, let's see. Let me see what happens after, you know, their family member gets home from the hospital. Let me see if anything. And then it was just like, it was still like very static. And then I was just like, yeah, I know. Like, I need to just call this. And
Hmm.
yeah. And
Hmm.
he responded in a really, really beautiful way too. So it
Oh.
worked out well.
It did. And these are the types of things that I love doing when I'm coaching people, like on a private level, because I'm able to like I was able to help you through it in time as the texts were coming through, as things were happening, which often, in order to break a pattern, you have to work on the actual action that's happening, in the moment. And so that it's more tactical and learning how to, go through some of these moments. Cause I remember, and this is something like this topic, I think could be a whole other episode, but like, how many times, especially as women, we come up with stories in our heads of why the guy disappeared or why he's giving us breadcrumbs or why. Like we always think about the story. And I think what you got to do in this experience is that it really didn't matter the why. It was a matter of like how it landed with you and was it okay with you? Because the truth is it doesn't matter why a guy pulls back. It really does not. What matters is how it is for you. And I think you really like it just kind of clicked and you're like, you know what? I don't like this, regardless of his brother being sick. I am in a different place. I want someone who's available. And you're right. It should be easy. It should not be this hard. It should not be this touch and go. It should just be easy. And I think you're experiencing that with this guy, but we'll talk about that in a second. But did you feel that too?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. No, and it was so good that like just listening to my own like being aware of my own feelings of discomfort and like and actually treating them like they were important. Like, that was huge, And then it was a matter of like, me like, how do I navigate this? Like, how do I communicate things in a way that's like kind and empathetic or fun and not so heavy and intense and whatever. Like, because I'm like, I don't like this, but I don't want to like be trying to like blame someone or like saying something, mean to them or whatever.
Yes.
Or like, I'm just like, I don't like it. So I'm just like, what do I do about this? Cause I was like, and there was times where you're like, I'm like, well, let me see how this goes. Like, you probably would have ended it like way sooner. Not that I let it go on too long, but I was like, and you're like, well, I could say that, and then I kind of was able to come up with my own things too, once I got a sense from you of like, oh, this is sort of like the vibe that you can kind of bring to it or a way, a different word, different like language you can use to like, be positive, but at the same time, like set your boundaries and stuff like that.
Well, and that's what was so beautiful for me to see is that, and I think what you're alluding to is the trust and the trust within yourself. I think when we did the deeper work and tying some of those trust issues with, people you've lost in your life and just like other things that were kind of coming up for you around that, it was so crucial for you to see that you have the skills. I think we're constantly like, you know, really second guessing yourself. And, by you gaining that confidence too, like Mary, you had amazing texts back to him and the way that you communicated, like you had the skills. I just don't think you believed it and that you trusted it based on some of your other experiences.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So oh my gosh. All right. And let's not forget about the new pictures that you got. Can we just talk a little bit that? Because I think it's a good segue into this new guy too.
Yeah, no, the new pictures were great. Like
Oh my
I
God.
found like, so a friend of mine had gotten some pictures on Facebook and I was like, your pictures are so beautiful. I'm like, what the heck? And it's like, where the same like area I live. And she's like, oh, I have a friend and he and his wife like take pictures, like she'll set up and so I was like, okay. And you were like, you need to get your makeup done. I'm like, what? You're like, and your hair done. I'm like, seriously? Like, so I'm up at like 5:30 in the morning. I can't believe it because they're all like, you have to be there at 8 because that's when the best lighting is. And I'm like, oh my God, it's been forever since I've had to get up this early. I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, oh my God. But you're right. And it was good to just like get it done. And so the pictures are super fun. And the
Oh my
couple was
God. Not
super
just fun. They're
adorable.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous. Well, and I remember because you took also the 6-week class that was co-ed, the dating by design. And I remember the guys giving you feedback of like, when you wore that black outfit and then remember you had pictures of you like almost like Home Depot.
It's just weird. I did not see them as Home Depot, but like apparently enough people commented on it that I'm like, okay, I guess I'm seeing it totally different than the rest of the
Right.
world.
So
Okay.
your marketing was off. So I feel like that was another thing that you gained, is that just like really owning that sexy confidence and showcasing that side of you, so that you just had better advertisement, because you're so gorgeous and you're this hot, like, Latin dancer. Like, oh my God, like it was amazing. And so, all right, so let's get into where you are now. You attracted this great guy. Like, share the story of how you met him.
Yeah, well, we met on an app, so
Yeah.
which is
Was
very common these days, right?
But
Very
wait, was
common.
it with the new pictures, right?
I had some of my new pictures up, I think.
Yes.
I should check. I definitely had put them up. So yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
he saw them at some point. Um, and then yeah, no, at least some of them were up for sure. And so we went to like a little dance class, like so we met like once a week for like a dance class. And then like the third week we went to get ice cream afterwards, and the fourth week we went to get like some tacos afterwards. And it was just really nice because it was just like a nice way to get to know someone slowly, because like
Mhm.
I've my intention has been wanting to like get to know someone like slowly over time, because
Mhm.
I just feel like it's more comfortable for me. And so seeing somebody like once a week, and then, like it was really nice. And then we did like a cooking class, and then we were able to like spend more time together. And then then we did something else where we could spend a little more time together, like talking and stuff, because those were all kind of like activity dates, but they're nice because like they were just like nice because you could just like you have the activity, but like you're in this person's presence. You can talk to each other a little bit, so you can like start getting to know them without like
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
much like the like sitting at a dinner table when you're like facing the other person. I think people can feel uncomfortable or pressured. I know sometimes like I feel awkward at those kinds of dates. So these were really nice.
Oh my God. Well, tell us a little bit about his personality and how this feels different.
I just felt like he had a really calm personality, and he was like just seemed like a really genuinely like nice person, and he was like very open about things. Like, some people I have had experience with dating, like they almost feel like you almost feel like there's some sort of like little mystery. Like they're not very like open talking about themselves. Like,
Mhm.
and you're like, why is that? Like, and so he was very open, which I appreciated. And um and just super nice, and like kind of like a very like gentlemanly and considerate person. And like, I thought he was cute, so I feel like that helps. And like for me, like I just were able to have like interesting conversations, and I feel like he doesn't
Mm.
take things too seriously, which is nice because I like to not take things too seriously either. And he likes dancing, and I like dancing, so that's great. We have, a couple, and he's sort of like, has this like creative aspect, which like
Mhm.
I appreciate because I have, I kind of like enjoy creative things too, even though I have like my I guess my day job. And so I don't know, I just always feel very like comfortable. Like I never felt like um anxious about things with him. So
That's
I feel like that was
it.
a good sign.
Yes, what you just said is so key. I think, and that's what we're talking about, like how comfortable it is and how easy it can be, is when you don't have that angst or anxiety. Like all those qualities that you talked about was like a breath of fresh air for you, like just having it be so easy. And sometimes it almost feels too easy. It's weird because when you're so used to like the touch and go and the breadcrumbing and blah, 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 it's like, wait a second, do I trust this? Is this real? And the fact that it was that easy with all the interests, and he just seems like such a different kind of guy that you've broken, even like no matter what happens from here, like you broke a pattern for yourself because you were different. And I think now you're able to recognize and have that awareness of what feels really good for you. And that's what I love about this whole thing.
Yeah, I know it's great because it was like night and day. I'm just like, oh
Hmm.
my God, this feels like so different to not, yeah, have be like angsty about anything and just feel like, oh, this person on
Yes.
the other end is like stable and secure and like good. Not that things are boring. Stable and secure isn't boring. Stable and secure is like peace of mind and calmness. And then there's other things that are exciting, like, oh, like, a conversation or like we're doing dancing or we're going to do this activity. And like, that's the exciting part. But the like, like the stability and security part, like having that base there, like not wondering like what this person's doing, like he would
Wow.
always follow through with what he said, and not
Hmm.
everybody does that. Like they'll say this and then they don't necessarily follow through. So that integrity was like very like it just feels good. It feels like good to be in the presence of somebody who like does what they say, says what they do.
Say what they mean. Oh my God. Yes. You know what? I just want to highlight. You said something so brilliant that I think I just want people to hear. I love that you said just because it feels secure doesn't mean that it's boring. That's huge because I think sometimes when you get so used to the pattern of the up and down, that adrenaline rush that you feel, I call it that intermittent reinforcement type of dynamic where you somebody says something, they don't do it, but then they throw you a crumb and then you get excited and then the adrenaline rush happens. It's like this like kind of toxic, you know, reinforcement that ends up happening with things. And I love that you said, the security and the consistency does not mean that it's boring. And I love that you're experiencing that. That's huge.
Yeah, no, yeah, for me, I'm just like super happy with it. I feel
Yeah.
very, very happy. I'm like glad.
Oh
Like,
my gosh. Well, and you're
yeah.
about to go on a trip together and you
Yeah,
guys
for
kind of,
like, yeah, for a
yeah.
week. It's an international trip and like
Yay.
and so I'm just like super excited about that. I'm like, there's nothing boring about that. I'm like, that's super exciting. So we're like planning this, planning that. What do we need to do? All these things. So it's
Oh,
really fun.
I'm
Yeah.
so happy for you. Well, and as any relationship, there's different phases in dating and you're kind of moving towards the relationship part of the dating phase where you kind of are committed and just you're going to see where it goes. Are there some things that are coming up for you now that because that always happens, right? You get to the next phase, you're like, okay, so I got this great guy. Now there's some things coming up again, So is there anything that you wanted to share about that and that I could help you with?
Yeah, what would be great is like I know stuff with like trust, I think is
Mm,
like a big one for me just from like things in the past. Like I've just had like multiple people like lie to me about things. And then
wow.
I ended up giving them a pass and like I'm planning on like making sure like in the next couple days I'm on this little forgiveness thing where I just like forgive everybody, just to like
Hmm.
wipe it off my slate. At the same
Hmm.
time, like maybe that has something to do with why I'm just like, I want to take things like really slow. But it's also because like I want to take things really slow because I feel like if I do that, maybe they're more likely to last. Although I don't know if that's really true.
Mm,
Like, so I'm just sort of like not sure how to, kind of navigate those things, including trust with respect to like fidelity and
hmm.
like what that looks like and everything. And so like that. Yep.
Yeah. And I think this is a big thing, especially as you date later in life, is that, most people, if you're over 30, you've experienced some other relationships that either didn't work out or you've been hurt. And I know, Mary, like you and I have talked about some of the hurt that you've experienced. And so what happens is the guard goes up because you don't want it to happen again. That's where the trust factor. So there's a tug of war that happens because you fear something but you also want it, and then it's easier to just slow it down and maybe block it so you don't have to deal with it, right? And I think that's where you're asking. It's like, you know how
And it's just like
much.
just to
Yeah.
interject super quick, like
Yeah.
just to interject, it's also because like I've had prior relationships too where I feel like the physical part moves fast, but then like
Yeah.
but then like there's this phenomenon where I overlook these like key issues that like are really
Hmm.
important issues because like the physical stuff kind of like overtakes that because of
Yeah.
I don't know all the hormones or whatever. And so I'm just like like maybe it's
Yes.
better to like get to know someone slowly before that kind of happens, because then you can really not have that like major distraction, but I don't know. But then it's like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Like, it's
Yeah.
just,
Well, let
yeah.
me help you a little. And obviously, like we still are going to be coaching together because now you're in the next phase and we'll have deeper talks around this. But I know that, you guys are about to spend some time together. And I think it'd be good to just send you off with some things. I mean, the notion is that like we all have somewhat of a guard up and, you might have like your armor on, right? And so either extreme isn't good, right? Like you don't want to strip all your armor off and stand there naked without any kind of protection, but you also don't want to keep everything like around you, like this brick wall and the armor on where it's so thick that then it prevents from you getting at least closer or collecting data for yourself and allowing that trust to happen. So the notion is it's somewhere in between, and it should be progressing in a way that feels really comfortable for you. And in essence, like for the physical part, for instance, um, if you've had a history where you have had that happen really fast and then you didn't build enough of the emotional, that tends to happen a lot. And so what you had experienced before is that the way that you felt with a guy and the way that you connected was the physical. Now we've reversed engineered it. You're learning how to build an emotional connection that will lead to the physical, and it's very different for you. So I love that you're taking it slow, and I think that with this journey you don't have to put like a timeline on it. You don't have to say, well, in 3 months, then I'll have sex, for instance. I don't believe in that because, things might progress very naturally when you guys are away and as you deepen talks. But I also don't think you have to like jump into the pool either. So I think part of it's time, part of it's data collection, and part of it is really deepening and strengthening the emotional connection so that you feel safe doing some physical stuff. And by the way, the physical doesn't have to mean sex, right? Like it could mean just exploring each other and in other ways. And by doing that, and over time, you'll see how you can trust, because obviously that's the only way that you'll be able to trust is to see if he's consistent in that way, in the way that he provides that security for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that when you like allow yourself to do just a little bit in time, I think that'll feel better for you too. So the notion is just to do a little bit, little bit, little bit. And as you get more comfortable and you guys together, then you can decide when it's time to be a little more open with both the emotional and the physical intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking?
That sounds good. Yes. I'm still wondering about this, like like how to have conversations about trust and stuff.
Yeah. It's a bigger conversation. I don't think at this
Yeah.
point, right, that you have to sit down and have this, we need to talk about trust, kind of thing. I think you're better served in having the actions happen that will inherently lead up to the trust, if that makes sense. Because I know like a lot of times people want to try to get that trust by having the talk, or, like what are ways that we can talk about the trust. But to be honest, people can talk about trust until the cows come home. But unless the actions back that up, it's all for naught. So I think you're better off just reinforcing him with like, oh, I love it when X, Y, and Z, like anything that builds trust in your mind, reinforce him. Like, I love when, you call me every day or text me every day, that makes me feel safe. Oh, I love this, da, 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 da. Like that's gonna reinforce him. And then if he's a good boy, as I call it, like he'll keep doing those things because you're teaching him how to build the trust rather than talking to him about it.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when people write in their profile, um, no drama queens or no scammers, please. Do you really think that that's going to ward off the scammers? No. Is that going to ward off like, no scammer's going to read it and say, oh, I'm a scammer, I shouldn't contact that person. That's what I'm saying. Like, people have good intentions, but it really is the actions in the end that's going to like tell you everything.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Oh, well, Mary, I adore you. I'm so excited that I get to like continue on this journey with you. Are there anything that you would like to end with and say, like, if people were thinking about coaching or, getting more help for themselves and maybe they're having a hard time, what would you tell them? What would help them kind of like think about it?
I just, from my experience, like this was very, like working with Kimmy has been super helpful for me because it's really easy to, like, I feel like it's been something I've been working on for a while, but it's a completely different experience to have somebody who like knows what they're doing, is competent, is capable, and it also you feel like very safe and secure with. And like Kimmy's super
Aw.
positive and brings like this really great energy to the space, and like that all is like very supporting, like positive energy and like competency and stuff, and her availability. She really cares about her clients, and like I feel very cared about, and like I felt very like supported, and I feel like she knows what she's doing, which
Aw.
which really like made me feel good about like kind of like listening to certain things that and suggestions that she had and everything. And I don't know, I also think that like the homework that she gives every week was
Mm.
like really, or every 2 weeks, I guess, it was really helpful for me. So I think it's really helpful for anybody who's like looking to like make a change for the better. And it definitely works. And it's like a two-way street. It's like you do your part and Kimmy does her part too, because she can't like just drag you along. So like, I think it's good for people who are like motivated to want to do something and are looking
Yeah.
for a really great, amazing person to help them in this process.
Mm.
So, even if I hadn't found a great guy, like, I still feel like it's worth it for, you know, just learning more about myself and doing things like focusing on myself on things that like make me happy, So, and that is
Mm.
really worth a lot.
Oh, Mary, that's so awesome. And thank you so much. And I loved working with you. And I think what you said is so important too, is that, I can be the flashlight and shine the light on some things, but it really is up to you to do the work and walk through the light. And you did. And it's so true that like when you do the work and you really want something for yourself, you'll do it. And I'm just so happy that you entrusted me in the process, because I know trust was a big issue and it was kind of meta for what we were working on. And what happens when you trust in other people, like, how you can build that relationship and get to where you want to go. And it's so true. Like, no matter what happens with this guy from here, it's never really about the guy or the girl. It's always about you. And when you feel good about you, that's when, other people will too, and you attract something different. So, Mary, thank you so much. And I'm excited to keep
Okay.
helping you. Yeah.
Thank you, Kimmy. I'm excited too. Thank you so
Have fun
much.
on your trip. I can't wait till you get back.
Yay.
Okay, bye. And thanks for joining me today. You listening? This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And make sure you go to my site, kimmyseltzer.com, to see more ways I can help you learn how to date smarter, not harder, but attract the right kind of love. And if you want to do that, just hop on a call with me, click on the link that you see in the show notes. And who knows, maybe you will be the next success story on my podcast after your first call. And remember, working on you is working on your dating life. That's all for now.